Kia ora koutou. Hello and welcome. My name is Mai Al Sharaf and I'm one of the international managers here at Waipapa Taumata Row, the University of Auckland. With me today, we have two of our current students, Aleksandra and Jeff, and our alumna, Maria. They'll be sharing a little bit about what student life is like at the university. If you have any questions for our panelists, please pop them in the chat and we'll answer as many of them as we can. To kick off, Maria, can you tell us a little bit about where you're from and why you decided to come to the University of Auckland?
Sure, May. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm originally from Mexico City and I came to New Zealand in 2018 to study a Master's of Law, specializing in corporate and commercial law. In 2019, I graduated from this program and I started working as a solicitor at Simpson Grayson, one of the largest law firms in New Zealand. Mexico is one of the largest cities in the world, and that causes a lot of competition between young professionals. At certain level, if you want to grow in your career and become a senior solicitor, you have to study a master's degree in an English-speaking country. Therefore, after 5 years of working in Mexico, I decided to start considering my options. After careful consideration and comparing various countries, I decided to come to New Zealand and the University of Auckland for 3 reasons: quality of life, low pollution levels, and the reputation of the university. These were 3 essential items that convinced me to come to New Zealand.
I'm Aleksandra. Thank you for having me. So I am originally from Poland. And I graduated from New York University in Shanghai for my undergrad diploma. So after graduating, I knew I wanted to continue this global education where I could combine, exploring a new country with like a top-level university. And I heard about a University of Auckland from my friend who had friends here studying. And I started to research more and more about the medical program and the application and what do I need to get here. And I applied, I got in, and started my medical studies this year. Yeah.
And thank you for having me. I'm Jeff. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the United States. And I'm a marine biologist by trade. I've done most of my education in the United States, but I have also had the opportunity to travel internationally to study in Indonesia and other countries. So when I was shown an opportunity to have a job, to have a PhD research opportunity studying my favorite animals, the octopuses, New Zealand seemed like the right idea. And Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is a dirty steel town with no ocean. So a university that is on an island nation with complete access to the creatures in the ocean as well was undeniable. So that was my main motivation.
Wonderful. And so, Jeff, for you, what was it like? What was your first impression when you landed in Auckland? What can you tell us and walk us through that experience?
Oh, absolutely. After a good 18-hour plane ride, it was quite exciting to see not only like an island nation with, wonderful green and like huge pastures, wonderful forests, but a city center. So it was a background I'm kind of familiar with like a city, but also it's very concentrated, and there was an immense amount of water and wild space that was extremely shocking to me. So as I began to kind of experience Auckland and the surrounding areas, it was quite wonderful because it's a very big contrast.
Yeah, the contrast was huge for you, I imagine, Maria, as well, coming from Mexico City, huge city, to Auckland, which is a slightly smaller city. Can you tell us about your first impression when you landed?
Yeah, absolutely. That has been a massive adjustment. I used to live in a city with more cars than people in this country. So it has been an adjustment. Something really interesting about this experience has been the safety. For me, that has been essential. Using public transport for me now is normal, which has been something that in my previous life in Mexico I never did before. As Jeff said, just walking around parks and enjoying the nature has been fantastic. So I have really enjoyed my life in Auckland. It's a wonderful city with a very beautiful waterfront as well, where you can go and run. I'm a runner, so this has been a privilege.
I think what Maria is saying exactly about the safety of the city was the first thing I experienced as well. And before I used to live in New York and Shanghai, was both of these cities are very fast paced and very everything is just going so fast and hectic. So I think like the first impression here was how relaxed and easy it was here to adjust. Yeah.
So Maria, you touched a little bit about this and your experience in Auckland City. I'd love to hear from the rest of you about your experiences in Auckland. What are your favorite things to do? What have you done that you've enjoyed? And Jeff, for you, traveling down from the Lee Marine Lab, what do you travel for?
It's a good question. It's a bit of a drive, but it's always worth it because the city has a wonderful waterfront. It has kilometers and kilometers of pathway that you can walk to see the boats, the ocean. The city is right there. But it also has a lot of green space, a lot of parks amidst all the hustle and bustle of a city. It's not to mention the wonderful nightlife, the restaurants, the diverse amount of food. But there's also awesome attractions such as What a Workshop, which does all the movie props for a lot of famous movies, which is always fun. It's like a really cool museum. There's a lot of interactive activities that are highlighted in some of the big city center districts, such as the All Blacks experience. So it's always worth my drive coming down to experience those things.
Yeah. What about you, Aleksandra?
So for me, right after I came here, I signed up for sailing classes, so I got to enjoy the water as well. I also play tennis. I play with the tennis team at the university every week, so that's so cool as well to experience. And then the city life, also very fun, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, well, diversity is something that Auckland embraces, and I like very much being walking in the streets and listening to so many languages. It's funny because now as a Spanish speaker, you go on the streets and then you can identify different Spanish accents. So it's just like, this person might be from Colombia, or this person might be from Mexico or Argentina, but also other English accents from around the world. So I've loved that in Auckland we can contact with people from all over the world. Now I have friends from South Africa, which is super exotic from somebody coming from Mexico.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's also very welcoming. I mean, the diverse population from everywhere around the world. I joined a Brazilian dance club, which I never would have done in the United States, just because of all the limitations there with regards to work life and how stressful it is. But here, it's such a nice city. It's so relaxed, and everybody has like a good work-life balance. And so with a really diverse population like that, kind of activities that were never there for me are now present, and it's so much fun to take part in.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jeff, because Aleksandra also mentioned the tennis club. Yeah. And so the university has over 200 clubs to pick from. Yeah. And so I'd love to hear from you, Maria, about your experience at the university. Did you join any clubs? What was that experience like?
Yes, well, for me, the master's was obviously the main goal, but as well when I came here I signed up immediately for Auckland Half Marathon. So I came with my partner, and the life work balance was so great that I was able to join the recreation center and go and train every day. So I will run in the morning in the waterfront next to the ocean, maybe 6-7 kilometers per day, and then go to school, have some classes, and then go back to the recreation center and train there. So this was my best half marathon ever, and it was fantastic because you start from Devonport, which is opposite side from Auckland CBD, and then you cross the Harbour Bridge. So you have a panoramic view of the city when you are running. And it's so encouraging because at that time I was sharing this passion for running with other students as well. So we not only did that, we also went and did the Tongariro crossing, which is in a national park. So we all rented an Airbnb and we just joined this trip. It was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, how long is the drive from Auckland City down to Tongariro?
I will say maybe 2 hours and a half, but I wasn't driving, so I wasn't really sure.
And so for the rest of you, have you traveled around New Zealand at all?
Been to a couple really nice places, mostly in the North Island. I haven't yet to travel to the South Island. I hear that's the best, but the natural landscape is just unbeatable, right? Like, it is phenomenal. So a lot of my trips have to do with hiking, a lot of trails. And so one really nice place is a peninsula called Tauwhanui, which is a wildlife refuge. And so you haven't lived until you kiwi spotted at night to see the little birds that are being rehabilitated there. It's wonderful, very open, very safe, very beautiful. But one of the best trips I've taken was to Hobbiton in Mata Mata. And New Zealand has a reputation for its film locations, and it lives up to the hype. An absolutely wonderful experience of the Shire and wonderful rolling hills, but it's a farm, but it was so worth, again, it was like 2.5 hours of a drive, but it was a beautiful day, beautiful island. It was very different than Auckland, a totally different landscape, but it was so exciting. That was one of my best trips.
Yeah. For me, for mid-semester break, I went with my classmates to Paradise Spring Valley. So we got to pet like baby lions, which was so cute. It was like a 4-hour drive out of Auckland. So we also got to see the landscapes when driving. We stopped in Cambridge and Hamilton. So I also got to explore different cities on the way. Yeah. And I plan to stay here a little bit over the summer to explore everything else, since I still didn't get that many chances to. So I'm very excited for that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to see around Auckland, within Auckland, and in the wider New Zealand, North Island and South Island. Thank you guys for sharing those experiences. Jeff, I want to talk a little bit about your experience on the Lee Marine Lab. What is that like? What sort of activities do you do? Can you share a little about that?
Absolutely. So as a marine science student, this is one of the best places that I could have imagined to study. It is a marine lab that is smack on the water, extreme access to the animals I need to study, but also just basic amenities to support their husbandry. So like seawater and nutrition and food, it's all right there. It may be in a rural area, but the lab is by no means rural. It is a fully functioning, wonderful facility. And it is just absolutely breathtaking because the coastline is expansive. The lab is on that coastline, and you are a snorkel or a dive away from, well, for me, collecting octopuses. But it is such a great community because it's everybody with such similar mindsets. But also that diverse background that New Zealand attracts. So you have other Americans, you have Mexicans, you have people from Asia, all over the world, everywhere. And they all have that common interest in marine science. So it's this really unique community of like-minded people that help with other people's research projects. Like they're not like so centered in their own research, but they go on boats and help out and dive for other people's research to create that really tight-knit community. So not only a wonderful science opportunity, but a wonderful community in itself.
And Aleksandra, you're based at the Grafton campus studying medicine. We've got a question from the audience. They want to know, what is it like studying medicine at the University of Auckland?
Yes, so what I was looking for in the medical program was to build up on my knowledge that I already had from my undergraduate studies. And I think that's exactly what I found here. So for our program, we have a format where we learn module by module. So right now we're doing respiratory module. So that combines, different fields of medicine into one system, studying about one system. And I think that's what makes this program so interesting as well, is because you can build that knowledge step by step, system by system, module by module. We also get to experience clinical skills classes since the very first semester, which I find so helpful as well, where we have patients actors, so we get to learn all of those practical skills since the very beginning. And it's all happening around Grafton campus as well, so everything is very convenient, close. All of the classes are very close to each other as well, so everything is the same place. At the same time, we have many cafes, restaurants around the campus. So during the breaks, we can just go, enjoy a coffee before the next class. We also have the beautiful Auckland domain very close by. So whenever I walk back home, I walk through the domain, which is so beautiful, relaxing as well after the medical classes. So yeah, it's a mix of everything. And I really enjoy, every single day going to lectures, enjoying the classes, having everything in the same place as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And Maria, your program studying law was completely down the hill, away from the Grafton campus. So can you touch a little bit about your experience of studying law?
Absolutely. My experience was very different studying law in New Zealand than in Mexico. In Mexico, I went to a university where the campus was massive, but it was surrounded by the city. And Auckland campus is in the middle of the city. So you have all these different buildings, the library, the lecture buildings, which are fantastic. Classes are very personalized, and you get to talk to the lecturer quite close and often, so they help you with your research and with any questions that you have. The waterfront is not very far away from law school, so conveniently I rented an apartment that was in between of them. So I just walked to school, and in the afternoons I just walked to the waterfront to train or run.
Beautiful. And so that touches a little bit on the student life experience and how you can create that life based on what you're studying, where your classes are. If you could describe your student life experience in 3 words for the audience, what would those 3 words be?
I have to say uninhibited, challenging, and exhilarating. Uninhibited because there are so many opportunities available, both for like fun things to do, but also that work that I do, like there are no limitations, and therefore is challenging because it's up to me to kind of both in the studies ask those questions and to do good work as a PhD student, but also with like my fellow students. It's up to me to kind of like get everybody together, especially in a rural Lee Marine Lab campus, but it's exhilarating. It's always worthwhile, and it's fun. As someone who is not from here and coming, it is such a wonderful and exciting experience and opportunity.
I would say exciting, unpredictable, and eye-opening. Yeah.
Why is it unpredictable?
I think being an international student in general, I feel like it's always an unpredictable journey where you always have to be ready, for new adventures, new experiences, just always be open to experiencing new things, meeting new people. And that, I think, brings that unpredictability factor with it. Yeah.
For me, I would say inspiring, adventurous, and transformative. Inspiring because me coming to New Zealand showed my classmates back home that it's possible to go to a different country where you don't speak the language, in a different type of law jurisdiction, and that proved to them that this can be done and that they shouldn't be hesitant at the time of applying to go to a university overseas where they don't speak English as their main language. It has been very adventurous because I'm now in the other side of the world, very far from home. But as Jeff said, the landscapes here are out of this world. You are going to have so much fun in South Island. It's such a beautiful place full of mountains and beautiful colors that I've never seen before. and transformative in a way because back home I used to work really hard. That's the culture. You will be there from 9 to 9, and there was no time at all to have fun during the week. Now I leave work around 6:30, and I have 3 hours to do whatever I want. So that can be go running by the beach or hiking or do something else that gives me and my partner a quality of life that has been transformative for both of us.
Yeah. And I want to hear more about your journey, Maria, into finding a job after completing your program. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes. Well, I was supported by the university all the way. I joined a program that was called Work Insight Programs, where they paired me with a lawyer that was working in a commercial law firm. And she taught me about the different positions, what were the areas of expertise, and with all that information and knowledge, then I started applying to positions more or less around halfway in the master's. I got a few calls back, and I was really lucky after my third interview to be seen by a partner that was open-minded and that allowed me to show my skills and experience. I have 5 years of experience back home, but I was really questioning why a law firm in New Zealand will hire a Mexican lawyer to work for them. And fortunately, I learned, thanks to the university, that transferring our skills is possible, and that we as lawyers are trained to understand how the law evolves through our lifetime, because the law that was active a few years ago might not be anymore. So transitioning from one jurisdiction to the other one is not that hard thanks to that. Commercial law, it's all about business. So when I had the interview, of course there were like technical questions, and when I left the interview was just like, I could have answered that in a different way, but they were really open. And now that I've been working there for 4 years, I've met people from South Africa, from China, UK, and we are all part of the same team. They all treat us the same way, and it has been a fantastic experience for me.
Yeah. And so you touched a little about the diversity, the cultural diversity of Auckland as a city to study and live. What was that experience like in terms of the difference between the New Zealand culture and the Mexican culture?
Well, I think as a Mexican, we are all very close to our families. We live in very close proximity. Here in Auckland, it's a little bit different. You need to drive a little bit longer to go to places, and that has been very different, but not in a bad way. I just like that there are many more open spaces, and culturally speaking, I don't think there is much difference as well in the sense that everybody's very friendly. And now that I've met more foreigners here, it's super nice to be talking to Brazilians about food and to people from Europe. Everybody's very passionate about that. They all feel very proud about it, but in a way where we can share our cultural background and just make the most of it.
Yeah, and for you, Aleksandra, and for you, Jeff, what was the most notable cultural differences that you experienced?
So I also didn't find that many cultural differences. The main thing that I experienced right after coming here would be, I would say that it's more relaxed and easygoing place compared to the places I lived before. So I had to kind of adjust and get used to that aspect as well, in a good way, because I also never realized, how stressed we are in the cities like New York or Shanghai, and there's so much going on. And here you can actually take a breath and take a second for yourself and take it all easier. So I think that was the main difference that I've experienced after coming. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. It's such a different work-life balance that did take some time to adjust. And it just as an American, and you've lived in the United States, it's kind of hustle and bustle, and so I took some time. But the other huge thing that I noticed was driving on the other side of the road, which took some time and practice. But if I can do it, anyone could do it. So that was quite an interesting change. However, one of the things I did want to mention just cultural is I think it's really awesome that I think University of Auckland, and also New Zealand overall has such an embracing kind of culture of the native peoples. They brought back some of the original language, and I hope to learn more, but I think the effort is there, and it's very nice to see. So that was quite a pleasant surprise on my arrival.
Yeah. And so for the audience watching, what would be your one piece of advice that you'd give a student considering the University of Auckland?
I would say that you should take the chance. For me, I weighed this decision quite heavily. Like, you have family ties in the United States, you have other work opportunities, and New Zealand, let's face it, is kind of in the middle of the South Pacific, and it's quite isolated and expensive to get to. But the reward is so worth it. It's such a wonderful reward to achieve. At least for me in the sciences, I can't imagine doing anything differently. There were many opportunities to continue my education in the science in the United States, but the amount that I'm getting here is so much more than I would have in the United States. I think it's worth the jump. It's worth living.
Yeah. I would say my advice would be to just stay open, be ready to be challenged, and be comfortable with just being uncomfortable in a new situation and new environment, because it's going to be challenging, obviously, especially for international students. You're going to be so far away, but try to take advantage of that uncomfortable situations, of all of those challenges, and then you'll be able to see, how you can grow. And how much you can change thanks to being in such diverse environments. And I think that's the most challenging, but at the same time most rewarding process that you can go through. Yeah.
Well, now after 5 years of living here, I would say do your research, enjoy the journey. It's a marathon. This is going to take time to adjust, to learn a little bit more about the culture, the language, how you will interact with other people that are also in the same situation. And something that happened to me was that when I arrived here, everybody was asking me, why did you come to New Zealand? Like, why New Zealand? And every time you tell the story, it gets better, and you convince yourself. And it's a way of verbalizing as well why you are here, why you decided to take this pathway in your life. And it's very far away from home for sure, but as all of the panelists have mentioned, it's worth it.
Yeah. I would love to hear, how did you guys make friends when you first arrived?
Yeah, so for me, I didn't know anybody before arriving here. And I think the first time I made friends was when I moved into Unilodge, which is the student accommodation, where I lived for 2 months. That was the first time I got the chance to see other students, to meet other students as well. I also joined psychiatry club at our university, where I'm doing social media. So guys, go and follow us. Yeah. I also joined tennis team. That's where I made friends as well. I'm also working as a TAP International Ambassador, Digital International Ambassador, where we got to meet other students as well who work with me. We became really good friends, so we're going to Waiheke Island this weekend. So yeah, lots of different opportunities. I think also just during classes, during lectures, I always made sure to talk to new people, to sit next to somebody I still don't know, to start a conversation, and just be open to new people, be brave enough, to start making friends, to just try to make friends in all the different places where you can, join clubs, join orientation week.
I think it's a great point. It's just, you have to say yes. Yeah. You have to remember that a lot of people are in the exact same situation. Yeah. They've moved from very far away, and even if they haven't, if they're from New Zealand, they're very nice. And so it's just put yourself out there to join those opportunities. When I came over, I didn't know anyone either, but I joined a lawn bowling club. So that got me going out with people, meeting new people on a personal level, and really getting to know those things that people have in common, and it really kind of bolsters your relationships, your social life.
And that's key, right? You need to find your people. And as a law student, they sometimes feel that we are very serious and conservative, and everything needs to be organized. But that works really well. We went to Tongariro, and it was a fantastic journey. We were people from Latin America, Brazil, and Mexico, but also people from North Wake and other countries in Europe, from Asia. And then you start talking to each other, and you discover that your city is exactly the same as Sao Paulo or Johannesburg or other cities in the world, and then you just combine your knowledge. And that's a privilege that as international students we have, because sometimes, as English is not my first language, I was really hesitant to start talking to somebody. I wasn't really sure if the verb was conjugated in the correct way, or what are they going to say about my accent. But in the end, you learn that everybody is feeling exactly the same, because some of them are also non-English speakers, and the only language that will join us is English. So just give it a chance, be brave, and see how it goes.
Yeah. And so for our students and prospective students who are considering studying at the university, you talked about the ambassador program as an international student. How can they reach out to you?
So they can find us on the university website in the tab Chat to a Student. It's a tab platform. And just reach out. If you have a question, you can reach out to us, just message us. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. That wraps up our conversation today. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for sharing your personal experiences, your perspectives, and I'm sure our audience have found your insights very, very valuable. So thank you once again. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you have any more questions about studying at the University of Auckland, please feel free to reach out to us in the chat or via email.